it really gave me a lot of insight, all of the trauma and all of the triumphs that I've had along the way. And I really felt compelled to help other women to really feel secure and confident and use their story as their power source. Hey everyone, welcome back to Truthatude TV. Today I'm going to be trying something a little different, and I want to share with you why Truthatude exists, why I care so much about women and helping them build their confidence and standing in their power. And so if you are new to the channel, my name is Lindsey Servin and this is Truthatude TV. Every so often I put out videos that talk about confidence and all the different things we face as women that affect our self-esteem. So if that sounds right for you, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and become a part of this amazing supportive community of sisters. If you are a returning subscriber, you already know I love you, boo-boo. So I wanted to try something a little different today. Obviously we're on the floor so that the baby girl can be in the video if she wants to. But I was asked recently why I care so much about other women being confident and how I got to be as confident as I feel in my everyday life. And it really stems from how I grew up. And so I thought it was important to share a little bit of that context with my community. I don't put this really on social media, and I really like to reserve this kind of stuff for our little community that is dedicated to our channel and supports each other. And so I feel like this is a good space and a safe space for me to do that, and I aim to be a safe space for others. So I guess we have to kind of start all the way back in my childhood. I grew up homeless. The first 10 years of my life I lived on the streets, often dumpster diving for food and sleeping in the park or in a car. Sometimes we'd get, a little bit of money to stay in a motel, but it was really rough, being a young girl living on the streets. And my mom was a drug addict and a dancer and prostitute. Eventually she had to turn to sex work to feed her addiction. And it all kind of started when I was originally born in Colorado, and my whole family's back there, and my mom decided to run after her runaway boyfriend, who ended up actually running away with the babysitter, and following him to Phoenix. And so she put all three of us kids, me and my brothers, on a Greyhound bus, and we all went to Phoenix. And that's kind of where our life in poverty began. My mom started dancing and got really heavy into the drug scene, and back then it was heroin and eventually evolved into meth. But because of that, we were neglected and often left alone. Most of the time my mom would just take off for days on end, and we were left to fend for ourselves. And I was about 4 or 5 at this time. So if you can imagine a 4 or 5-year-old little girl on the streets just roaming around by herself with her 2 young brothers, that was my life for the first 10 years of my life. And we dumpster dived to find food, and eventually when I got a little bit older, like 8, 9, 10 years old, my older brother and I started running around with some thugs and kind of got to that gang life. And I know that's so shocking to some people because I don't seem like that, but I was, a little chola for a while, and we hung around with some really bad people, but it was a way to protect ourselves. It was a way to make sure that we could eat, and it got really rough. And when I was 8 years old, my baby brother passed away, and that was kind of the really tipping point for my mom. She spiraled into her addiction even worse, and into mental illness even worse, and we eventually got so just in a bad way that I had to call my grandparents, who were still living in Colorado, to come and get us. And I remember the day that, my mom, we were stranded on the side of a Motel 6, literally just on the side of the road, and my mom took off, and I had to call a friend of mine and say, hey, can I come stay with you? And can I bring my infant brother with me? And I remember her mom getting on the phone being like, what's going on? And I just told her, I was like, we're stranded and we don't have anywhere to go. And she was like, I'll come get you. And so I ended up staying with this woman and her family and my friend for almost a year. But it got to the point where things were so bad, my brothers were scattered all over the city, and we were going to go into foster care. And at that time in Phoenix, foster care was a very dangerous place. Kids were being abused, kids were dying in foster, and I'm sure that there's still a lot of that goes on today, and it's heartbreaking. So I called my grandparents and said, you have to come get us. And so they did. They drove from Colorado to Phoenix and came and got us, and we lived with them. Now, there's a lot of spotty history because we had gone back and forth to Colorado several times throughout those first 10 years of my life. We kind of ping-ponged between Colorado and Arizona and Colorado and Arizona. I mean, I think I had 6 schools when I was in 4th grade. And so speaking of school, that was kind of the one thing that I held on to with all my might. And even though like the thugs were calling me schoolgirl and, you know, whatever, one, I knew that if I went to school, I got breakfast and lunch. And 2, I kind of just saw it as like my escape from reality and from life. And that's where I started reading. I started reading Dr. Seuss books were like my escape. And I remember in 2nd grade, I had read every single Dr. Seuss book that had ever been published. I was that crazy about it. And I was in all the accelerated classes, and I always did really, really well in school. And so fast forward to living with my grandparents. My grandparents, God rest both of their souls, I lost them recently. You know, they did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had, but they had both grown up in abusive homes, and so they loved us the way that they knew how, which often included, you know, abuse. And living with my mom and my stepdad, they were strung out on drugs, and so we got beat up all the time. I was physically abused, I was sexually assaulted more than once before I was 8 years old, and it was all just this conglomerate of things that you experience as a young girl living on the streets unsupervised and uncared for. And so there was a lot of trauma. And so moving with my grandparents, they were hard on us. They were strict. I was, you know, put down a lot. And I think it was because my grandparents were exhausted. They had raised their 4 kids. They were doing the best that they could. They should have been able to retire. They were not given the tools as, you know, when they were growing up to really know how to nurture and, you know, bring up children. And so they did the best that they could. This is not a video to disparage my grandparents. We're all doing the best that we can with the knowledge that we have in the moment. And I love them so much, but it was hard growing up in that house. And education was something that I always clinged to. And when I brought up the idea of going to college, I was met with a ton of resistance. I remember I was a junior in high school, and my guidance counselor coming up to me and saying, excuse me, why are you the only junior not registered to take the ACTs? And I just said, because I'm not going to college. That's not in the cards for me. It wasn't. I grew up poor. Like that. Nobody in my family even graduated high school. And so the thought of graduating high school and going to college was like not even in my realm of thinking. And I know that for some people, that's just like the natural progression of things. You go to school, you graduate, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, you do da-da-da-da-da. That just wasn't my life path. And so I remember when I was 16, my grandparents were like, you're old enough to sign yourself out of school, you need to stay home and help take care of the house. And I did the rebellious thing and decided to graduate high school. And so when my counselor approached me about going to college, I was like, that's not in the cards for me. And he pushed me. He was like, you're one of the top students. What the hell do you mean you're not going to college? Like, you're president of every club and you're involved and you have great grades and you're in all the accelerated classes. Like, what do you mean you're not going to college? And so he helped me. He helped me look at colleges. He helped me fill out applications. And the crazy thing is that I hit a roadblock when it came to financial aid, because we were broke as fuck. We were poor. So that wasn't a challenge. The challenge was that my grandparents never legally adopted me or my brothers. So to get financial aid through the government with the FAFSA application, we were supposed to use my mom's income tax information, but her income wasn't exactly above board. You know what I'm saying? So, and we couldn't even find her. Like, she was just gone, you know? She was strung out somewhere in Arizona. And so we had to go through my biological dad. And my biological dad and I have no contact, no relationship. And the crazy thing is that he's like a perfectly normal human being. He lived 15 to 20 minutes down the street from me my whole life. And when my grandparents brought us back from Arizona and said, hey, we have your kids, can you help us or can you take them? He was like, nope, no thanks, ma'am. And he literally just didn't want us. He got a new wife, got a new set of kids, and moved on with his life right down the road. And so when I reached out to him and was like, all I need is your signature on this form, I just need a little bit of information, he was resistant. He didn't want to put his name down. I'm like, you don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to do anything. I just need your fucking signature. And that was like pulling teeth. But finally, he got it. I was able to get a ton of financial aid. And when I told my grandparents that I was going to college, and I showed them my financial aid letter and where I'd be staying, where I'd be going, their words to me were, you're out, you're out. And that was heartbreaking. The day I moved out, I didn't get the warm goodbye, send off, good luck with college. I was basically kicked out and told, you're out, you're out. And that was heartbreaking. My my high school graduation was not celebrated. My college graduation was not celebrated. Like, it just was really rough, and I felt so alone. And I was a first-generation college student. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't pass all my classes, which was just so new to me because I was straight A student and I struggled. I didn't know that you had to renew financial aid every year. I was signing, financial loan information things without any kind of knowledge or financial education. I made a lot of mistakes and I paid for them. And I worked 3 jobs to put myself through school and pay for my own apartment and just really stand on my own 2 feet. And it really gave me a lot of insight, all of the trauma and all of the triumphs that I've had along the way. And I really felt compelled to help other women to really feel secure and confident and use their story as their power source. And that is kind of how Truthatude came to be, was all of the struggles that I'd gone through. I know I'm not the only one. My story is not that unique. Unfortunately, so many women have endured some of the hardships that I have, but some of those women have never been able to dig themselves out of the gutter. And I grew up in the gutter, and I was a little hood rat, and I managed to get myself out. But that's not because I believe in this, oh, if I did it, you can do it kind of thing. I never believed in that. I had a lot of angels and support looking out for me. But I embraced my story, and there was a long time that I was really, really embarrassed by it. I was bullied because I was poor. I was bullied because I didn't have a lot of the things. I felt slow a lot of the time because I didn't have a lot of the same background knowledge or context because I had switched schools so much. I felt behind a lot. Even early, in my 20s and into my early 30s, I felt like I was playing catch up because my friend put it so beautifully. I was digging myself out of a hole that I didn't create for much of my 20s. And so it got to the point where I hadn't been able to level the playing field until my early 30s, when most people started with a level field, you know? And so I've gotten to the point where, yeah, I'm building a little bit later, but what really made clear to me what my purpose was is to help other women embrace their story and really stay true to their truthitude and really own their story so that they could, you know, build their confidence and live their dreams. And that is what the whole premise of Truthatude is for. And so I wanted to give you just a little bit of context of why this channel exists, why this community is so important to me, why I'm working hard to build out this coaching membership for you and have conversations with you one-on-one and in groups, and really just use the things that I've gone through to connect with you as a person, as a woman, as a community, and to really be a safe space for you to lean into, knowing that, like, I've been through some shit and you're not alone. And we are a community of women that will lift you up. We will be your friend. We will be your support. We will be your shoulder to cry on. And I'm here for it. I'm here for you, and I love you. And I know that it feels hard sometimes with the world on your shoulders, but you're not alone, and you don't have to carry everything on your own. So that's gonna wrap up my video today. I hope you enjoyed it. I really think that it's important to be authentic with my audience and the people that have chosen to support this channel. And so I really do thank you for watching my videos, for leaving me messages, leaving me comments, sending me little notes on social media. That really is powerful and really does impact my life. And I hope that even one of my little videos helps one person in one tiny little way. And just from the bottom of my heart and from my little puppy heart, thank you, thank you, thank you for being a part of this community. And so I will see you in the next one. Leave me your thoughts, your comments, anything, questions that you have in the comment section below. And until the next one, stay true to your truthitude. I love you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.